Listen.
Posłuchaj.
Écoute.
Rama, 聞いてください。
Escucha. MCO.
Listen.
MCO.
MCO.
Between the Bars.
Hi, I'm Yannick Dondelinger, and welcome to another episode of Between the Bars, the podcast of the Mahler Chamber Orchestra. Yuja In Our Time, an informal chat with a very special pianist. She's a phenomenon in our time. Yuja Wang.
He's like, ready for the encore? Encore meaning the Paganini. Like the minute he said that, I was like, oh, that's true. Like this piece is playful and genius. I think Rachmaninov is the best composer.
Yuja Wang, reflecting on one of her first recordings with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, conducted by the late and great Claudio Abbado when Yuja was just 21. And you're going to be hearing more of that Deutsche Grammophon recording throughout the episode. Since then, her fingers haven't stopped to rest. She's all over the world's stages, all over social media, and commands a breadth of repertoire that shows a staggering inquisitiveness for music. Yuja is without question one of the most interesting artists of our time. And I was able to catch up and interview her as an artistic partner of the Mahler Chamber Orchestra on one of our tours together. We were on the way to Amsterdam. The weather was awful, you can hear the rain in the background, but the feeling was decidedly cozy and informal during what turned out to be a long but intimate taxi ride. Do you mind if we talk about, when you were growing up, it's always, fascinating to know how someone discovers their instrument, how they start. Was it always going to be piano for you? Because I read somewhere, of course I've done a bit of reading, and interestingly, I read that you have to totally correct me if I'm wrong, that your parents were not particularly pushy.
No.
But you were obviously deeply gifted from a really young age. Did you...
They're musicians, so they're like, they know how hard it is.
Exactly.
So they're like, just be a mathematician or engineer or doctor or something.
Right. Are you grateful for them that they didn't push you in that way?
I don't know.
You could sort of discover the instrument more.
They don't push me, I push myself, so it's the same thing.
Right, yeah.
No, the thing is she was a dancer, and she really, I think she tried for me to be a dancer, and I did not like to exercise and stretch and all that stuff and get up in the morning.
Right.
So I just pretended I really like piano,
right,
so I can sit.
Wow.
And then
But you're so fit, you must exercise, no?
No, everyone says that. I think it's just, I don't know why. My upper body is fit, not so much lower.
Right. Well, that must be the piano.
Yeah, it is the piano, actually. It is quite... Probably because my mom's a dancer, so I did think about that too. Like, it was so organic how it's... how I play the piano from the very beginning. Like, don't hunch your back. The power is from... from the feet, right, from the bottom, like feeling grounded, and also like having space kind of within yourself, this kind of thing. It was very organic when I started, so it's not, I'm being relaxed and being economical, and then people always talk about that later, like that's what strikes them. But I feel like, can we look past that and hear the music, And also, like, how do you pedal with your high heels? I'm like, if I hear that question one more time.
That you said it, I didn't say anything. We strike that one. You were 12 when you left China for studies, I presume.
I was 14. Okay. I went to a summer camp when I was 12. At that age, it's not really my decision, no? More, it just happened. I don't really know.
It felt like a good opportunity, your parents thought?
I think they wanted me to to be a really independent person, so they sent me abroad.
So sorry, you were abroad alone, so they stayed, you went?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
How did that feel?
Since 14. It feels great at that age. It's like no more
good.
parents.
Good.
No? I think it's easier when you're younger with language, with costume. No, like different culture, you just immerse yourself into it. But this sense of being an immigrant, I mean, lots of musicians are immigrating from somewhere. It's kind of like a special, especially somewhere like from China to America, not like from Paris to Berlin. So it's a big change, and that does something to you, I feel. Really.
Do you feel more American now?
I definitely do, which is probably not a good thing right now.
Yeah. Have you noticed change in America the 20 odd years you lived there?
Well, it's hard to say because I changed so much as well. Like when I was a kid and everybody's like, oh, here's an Asian kid who can move the fingers. But now it's like, as a pianist, I'm more established. Like everything that was kind of being judged is a good thing. You know, like she's not rushing anymore. She's so exciting. Or like her left hand isn't too heavy. She's so powerful. Like how people see how you play. It seems to be a very arbitrary thing. So that's why I stopped reading critics. But in America, it feels so forgiving. I just remember when I was young, whatever I do is not like, oh, she moved fingers fast. It's more like, oh, it's so impressive, blows away. And I remember all this like really over-the-top superlatives. But at the same time, you're kind of missing the critical part. Like, okay, someone give me some feedbacks. I still miss that. Like someone really just be honest and and be masochist and tell me how I am.
It is great to be a millennial now in a world, and also in a classical business that's having to reinvent itself and realize, oh, you know, the same old recordings of the same canon. That's it.
I started noticing like now we're including more different repertoire from different backgrounds. And then you look back in the history, like all these female jazz players who's just out of this world. And then like you look at old masters and they are doing exactly that. They are playing obscure music like Gilels, Horowitz, and they do, like you said, they have to reinvent themselves. And I wonder if people are just like more aware of, conscious of what we're doing. But are we actually doing more than what they have done unconsciously? I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah. I heard some really rare old recordings and there's just like so much beauty.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, they do say the whole history of the recording industry is like the slow death of live music, improvisation. I mean, we all know these crazy stories. If you go way back in Mozart's time and Mozart and Beethoven, their concerts would be like not chaos, but I mean, you know, they'd suddenly improvise something in the middle. How do you, as a pianist, when you think back to Mozart, just like going completely off page in the middle of a concert?
I wish I could improvise like that. I would do it too.
Right.
And then like after cadenza, people apparently clap. I mean, like in Spain, when we play in Madrid and Sevilla, they applauded after the first one of Ravel. Yeah. And I loved it. I feel like so accomplished. And then when I didn't in Lisbon, I was like, oh, did I suck?
But that's fabulous because for decades it was like, and so many times we're in the concert and if someone applauds, you hear shh, shh.
Yeah, and then that's like, even more disturbing than
exactly.
the applauding. It's just like, oh, it's like it's the aristocratic part of the music, of like the concert goers in the beginning, not the musicians part that's talking when they shush people. It's like we have to dress up well, we have to, have certain manners to, certain manners is needed. Quiet is great. No coughing and candy wrapping is great. Yeah. And I told Vincent started improvise a bit in the rehearsal in the fast one. I was like, please do more of that. And since then he's been doing that. It's so amazing. Yeah, it's exactly what that piece is about. So
I grew up and the feeling that you're sitting on stage, you have the orchestra, it's very two-dimensional. You're almost like a couple of speakers pumping out someone's favorite interpretation of, they've been listening to at home already on their record player. And that's how it had to be, and every evening should be
perfect.
The same, of course.
That's so
because
true.
that's what everyone listened to when they were growing up. Their favorite, what is your definition of your favorite interpretation?
I know. It's like there's one ultimate interpretation of each piece.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Rock 3 belongs to Horowitz, and Chopin 2 is Zimmerman, and you have to, as a human, you cannot be reaching those guts level, but you try. You're not allowed to. That's funny. So you grew up where?
Me? Oh, I grew up in England, but I'm like French father, Czech mother. I live in Sweden. I have kids adopted from South Korea and Vietnam. So
cool.
I call myself Eurotrash. That's me.
No, see, if you were born in China, you're just Chinese.
Right, yeah. But I really envy these people who really know their roots. I don't. I felt an immigrant in the country I was born in. Yeah, no, really. And it took me to join the GMGO, the Mali Youth Orchestra, and go abroad to realize, actually, I'm more a person of the world. This is my
exactly.
group.
Yeah, Eurotrash. China is so vast and so much culture. I love food, as all good musicians do. And then I had a recital tour last December, and every city has their very special flavor and style of cooking. And some are sweeter, some are more in soups, and they have different alcohol that goes with it. It's supposed to be health beneficial, not making you drunk. Everything's health beneficial. I think that's how they sell everything. And then it's just from the food, you just can tell how subtle and sensitive and complex, the whole country, the culture, the country is, And I'm actually from this minority called Hui. There's 56 minorities, majority being Han, and minority Maya is Hui, and it's they have their own religion. So I don't even understand it being Chinese, but I just feel really. And also we have different way of speaking. And then when I go back, I thought I love Shanghai because it's very New York-like. I love Hong Kong, I love Shenzhen, all these cities. But when I go back to Beijing, which is where I was born, the way people speak is so nonchalant and so kind of rude, but so sweet, and it just make you feel really heartwarming. Oh. Yeah.
Okay, but explain to me, I'm really interested in this whole question of religion, because I am absolutely an atheist.
Me too.
Oh, you're the second person on the planet I met who's actually who's actually prepared to say that. Honestly, how do you navigate that?
Agnostic. But in China, like, you have to say you're atheist because you believe in Mao.
Oh, well, okay. Oh, maybe I should move to China.
Yeah, no, but then you have to believe in Mao.
Yeah.
There's a difference. The other day, I saw between nice and kind, and I think there's a difference between having a religion and being spiritual.
Yeah.
I can be spiritual. I think every concert we have to kind of, that's my goal, not perfection, but like kind of reaching that that uplifted feeling. And I certainly have that feeling, whether sometimes if you go to a church, like the beautiful, I think it's just a awe or admiration for beauty, whether man-made or nature. Being spiritual is cool.
Yeah. It comes without strings attached. It's nice.
Yeah, totally. That's the only way I know how to be. But I don't know the other way of string attached. But I think it's like a safety blanket, you know, for people who doesn't have answers. And nobody has answers, like, about anything. We don't have answers about whether the hotel's ready or not. In this level. But, like, you know, you want your future to be better than now, or you want, if you're having a great life, you want to keep it and not change, and you kind of, scared of, it's fear, right?
Right.
And then you feel like, well, there's always a father figure who can reassure me that I'm okay.
And it always was a father figure. That's the other thing with religion.
Yeah, even
it
me.
always seems to be men. It's the man who will reassure you.
Yeah, the woman will take care of me, but the man who's gonna be having the answers.
But the future is with women.
I mean, it's not. Is that gonna be better? I'm not sure.
No, well, the future might not be with the human race. Full stop.
Exactly.
Can we go back for a second to recordings? I know we started to talk about something very interesting about the
Clinical?
Yeah, clinical, the history of it, and you know, the end game of that is, okay, why continue doing recordings? And then I remembered the first time you met our orchestra was it was concerts, but it was also a recording scenario for our 2010, I think. Mm-hmm. And also it wasn't recording any old pieces, it was really iconic repertoire.
Rachmaninov too.
And the Paganini variations. I mean, looking back on that, so okay, that's a what do you call it? A recording is also a moment in history. It's a cataloguing of something.
Yeah. I love that cover, and I also love the recording.
Yeah, I hope so.
No, that was I think at that time, I was like living the dreams. Like, oh my God, playing with Claudio. I did with Luzerne the summer before. In the opening concert for Coffee of Three. Did you play too?
Yeah.
And then usually they told me it's like Polini or Brando, and I was like, yes. It's like stamp of approval, which is a big thing when you just came out of school. And then they're like, what do you want to record? I was like, anything with Claudio. And then it actually happened. I was like, oh my God.
So they chose it, or you said, I want to do these pieces? Or they said, what would you like to do?
Well, I want to record with Claudio, but Claudio chose those two pieces, which is not very... the acoustic in Ferrara was not very conducive to Rachmaninov.
Is there an acoustic in Ferrara?
I was like, oh no. It's always like everything, right? Like you look so much forwarded. You so much look forward. Yeah. And then when it happens, like, oh, is that how it happens?
How did it feel at the moment? I mean, I was 23 or something. I mean, completely different place in your life.
21?
In your 20s.
Yeah.
A completely different place to where you are now. And you made this recording that people are going to listen to like forevermore.
Oh, I certainly did not think about that part.
That's probably good.
I was kind of hoping to record something else, but that was the repertoire is by him, by his choice. And I just remember after the Rach 2, he's like, ready for the encore? Encore meaning the Paganini.
All right.
And then I was like, the minute he said that, I was like, oh, that's true. Like this piece is playful, it's genius, but it's like pure. I think Rachmaninov is the best composer.
Yeah.
I don't care what other.
Well, you're a pianist, of course. I think you're totally entitled.
Yeah, and Chopin too. The ones you hate. I love the Chopin concerto.
Genius.
He is.
And also for his symphonic work, which is a
the symphonic dances I just played. And like we heard it just becomes so popular. So you know how it goes, but when you learn it, it's like everything is connected. He's equally organized as Brahms.
Right.
Motivically and thematically and harmonically and everything, and just maybe a little jazzy with the chromatics, and it's just so brilliant.
We talked earlier about the German repertoire that MCO has really been, in a fabulous way, steeped in. And the repertoire that you're doing with us now, it's the Russian repertoire going back from, Rachmaninov and then those dudes who settled in America before the war. It is a very different world. How do you navigate that? The language? It's a different language.
It is. You listen to it differently, and you also like give yourself differently. But I started with Mozart and Beethoven, Bach for sure, when I was a kid in China. And actually, they were so. I remember back then I had to go to the library. There was no IMSLP. I mean, anything after Brahms is considered contemporary. And then if someone plays Messiaen, oh my God,
that's how it happens.
It's like the Holy Grail.
But you've done Turangalila Symphony.
I just recorded, Turangalila.
That is a fabulous piece.
It's like cocktail hour in heaven. But the first thing that made me love music is Tchaikovsky Swan Lake. Because my mom's a dancer, and we hear that, I was like, oh. And my dad is a percussionist. He's like, he loves this Fassman kind of thing. Yeah. And he plays jazz in like hotels, and he plays more like pop stuff. I mean, if you're a percussionist, anything goes. And then I never play Bach in public because I actually really... So the curriculum back then was like you play Bach, classical music, romantic, and the Chinese music. That was like our audition or whatever. So I have to practice Bach, and I always feel so peaceful. Like everything is in its right order and everything goes as it should be. Like just calm when I play Bach. Not like when I play like Chopin etudes or whatever, like Moskovsky. It's like, oh my god, I don't know where my finger goes, and then they keep saying I'm rushing and I'm not. And there's like metronome and like, you know, that feels like dancing again. But when I play Bach, it felt so just great, and I want to keep that because I think if I play that on stage, I'm not gonna feel that calm.
Aha, you want to keep it for yourself.
Yes, it's not for public.
Selfish.
It's
It's for public consumption as well.
It's not for public consumption. Like I leave a little bit for
no,
myself.
I totally get it. I do. I mean, a slightly obvious question now. This, you know, you talk a lot about dance, rhythm, and all that, and then you talk about the influences of your parents, and then I read a lot about you since, you know, your life now in America. You've really, I can't think of the words, sucked up the music of American 20th century from Rachmaninov, Stravinsky, jazz, and the influence of Gershwin, and all of this. It to me seems like a really logical connection with how what musically influenced you when you grew up. It's a really logical connection.
Yeah,
the linking of jazz,
that.
rhythm, dance.
Right.
You know, a lot of this repertoire is dance related, and I don't mean like Viennese dance. I mean like.
No.
Do you ever think about that, or is that just too obvious to even think about?
I guess we choose what's innate, and I mean, it's like daddy issues, right? Talk about the father figure. Yeah. Like that's what you're familiar with as a childhood, and you can never get rid of that. And same with music. Like that's what I hear, and then I always want to find new music that kind of have that in the core, like Schwarzman. And I didn't know like jazz was banned in he's Ukrainian. Yes. Jazz was banned in Russia around his time. Right. That's why we never heard of him.
Subversive music, for sure.
Is it?
We're coming towards the end of an all too short interview, and we suddenly start chatting about enjoying a drink on tour, but also the difficulties of growing up, sometimes alone, on stage in the bright, often judgmental lights of the classical performing world. Back to the taxi.
But yeah, that's also a social norm that probably Gen Z is trying to change, because if you want to meet up with some person, it's always like, let's have a drink. Yeah. After 5, let's have a drink. But what if,
now not.
And it's not good. Like alcohol apparently kills brain cells. I read that. I know it. I mean, you have to. If you're in Belgium, you have to try the quack beer. It's part of the joy of life.
You introduced me to quack beer. No, it's fabulous. It's
and
the
you
best
don't have to eat for the rest of the day. It's so
yes,
heavy.
it's a meal. Totally.
It's like it makes you happy in a different way, as in like a nice gin tonic that we had in
variation is the spice of life.
Madrid. It is. And my teacher is 96, Gary Graffman. Right. He has vodka every day. He flavors vodka.
But do you think this generation now, and I think also generally in society, people think more in absolutes. Like, you've got to absolutely not drink. You've got to absolutely vote for my party.
It's very extreme.
This absolute ideal you have to follow.
I'd rather have the absolute vodka.
Right. That's an absolute we'll live with. No, I find
That's-
that people can't have a conversation because it's always so, absolutely, I feel this way.
We were talking about that. It's very debatable. It's like when we hear music, there is like a perfect way of playing this piece. And then actually, that's when I went to America, realized that is so bullshit.
Yeah.
And to break free from that, it's extremely liberating. And then I start having my ideas and I start like experimenting. It can work, it might not work. I mean, maybe 70% of the time works, and that's already like super winning. And then nowadays, it's like if you don't give a statement, that means you are for or against.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, actually, I just didn't give enough thought, and I don't feel like I'm qualified to actually. I see the pro and cons of both sides, and I think people should be allowed to live that way. And that doesn't mean like you're wishy-washy, like you're not standing on your ground. I will stand my ground once I know, but I mean, sometimes I think both are fine. How do you figure out what's noise and what's real talk? I feel like people, especially when they have career young, which is everybody now, they really should know that earlier than like realize that by learning it the hard way. Yeah.
Did you have to learn it the hard way? Or, 'cause you
I
had
think
a career
so,
from
yeah.
very
I
young.
was very young. I was 16, and I also like didn't have parents. Everything was like very I'm just open. Like,
Yeah. But that can also
I'm very
make you
eager
vulnerable.
to exactly, and then it's open and vulnerable. But that's like, you know, how do you set boundaries? How do you listen more than talking in certain situations? And I think it's all come down to trust in the end.
Right.
Which is what I have musically with this group. But it's rare, you know. It's like there are other people who it's never the musicians, it's like all the other part of this whole huge system.
Yeah. You're right at the top of that. I mean, you have to deal, you're like sort of one of the, what do you call it, poster people for it. So you're really trapped at the top of the system. How do you navigate that?
Sometimes I don't know how, because there's so many questions to me, you know. It's always questions, and some are pseudo questions because it's kind of like, this is a statement, you're doing this, it's not a question.
Right.
And in the end it's a good choice, but it's like it's an illusion that you do have a choice but you don't.
You ever thought of going into politics or something?
Well, at least I will have more power, maybe.
Yuja Wang, a fabulous and insightful musician, pianist, human. She's young enough in mind to make shockingly original music on stage, yet has been around long enough now to understand how to navigate a profession that will eat you alive if you're not ready for it. And she's an immigrant to boot, something I understand well, who, like Rachmaninov, her favourite pianist-composer, has settled, for the time being anyway, in the great musical cosmopole that is New York. With a grand piano in the living room of her apartment, high, high up over the Manhattan skyline, me and my Mahler Chamber Orchestra friends can sometimes stand on the sidewalk along Broadway, point a finger upwards, and guess, there's Yuja, practicing in the clouds, preparing to come down to Earth, somewhere on the planet, long enough to step on stage and make music with us, for you. I leave you with Yuja Wang playing Variation 18 of Rachmaninoff's Paganini Variations with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra and Claudio Abbado conducting. A Deutsche Grammophon recording. MCO would like to thank most of all Yuja Wang for her time and kindness in being interviewed on the way to Amsterdam and the Concertgebouw Hall, where we performed just a few hours later. Many thanks also to Deutsche Grammophon for the use of their recording of Yuja's Rachmaninov Paganini variations with us. And thanks, of course, to the musicians of the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, who are the reason artists like Yuja Wang love coming to MCO to make music. Between the Bars team is Matthias Meyer and me, Yannick Dondelinger, and is a Mahler Chamber Orchestra production. Don't forget, keep listening.
Between the Bars.